for some analysis on the day's proceedings. Now joined by political analyst Professor Lesiba Tefu. Prof, good evening. Thank you very much for your time. I guess the ANC Secretary General was correct, wasn't he? I mean, spies infiltrated the liberation movement. The issue here is when people start diverting attention from themselves because they have questions to answer, or when they have axes to grind.
Mm-hmm. Well, greetings, viewer, and to the listeners. Look, the story of the spies has been with us for quite some time, and it is very difficult to prove, but it's easy to throw at. Same as in yesteryears during the days of the struggle. It's easy to call somebody a spy, and then you get necklaced, only for truth to come out, but then too late. I think it's a tried method that is no longer carry currency, and I don't think people still put some premium on what he says, read the spies.
But it is a basis on which, as some people have argued, former President Jacob Zuma is basing his testimony. That for decades, because he knew so much, there are people who are out to destroy him. And everything you are seeing now is part of that big and elaborate conspiracy.
Well, again, with conspiracies, you can conspire in many ways in order to get out of yourself, out of the pickle, and which is what I think is being done here. You see, what the people would want to challenge, perhaps, and rightly so, is you had all this information, and when it matters most, you didn't disclose. Indeed, if there were spies, and you were the custodian of preserving and protecting the ANC, you kept quiet. And weren't you putting the ANC in danger? Weren't you putting the country somehow in a very vulnerable position? Should people really believe that indeed you are bona fides when you say the people are spies? Or is just because you find yourself where you are? But I think he's a very wily politician, and he knows what he's doing. It's part of the strategy. He has rehearsed this strategy many times, and I'm not disappointed, by the way, by what he says. Those who are disappointed might be those who have not been following him. He has been consistent in this stratagem that ultimately you end up not getting anything out of him. And I expect up till Friday it would be like that. Those who can recall what happened when the former public protector interviewed him, Advocate Madonzela, it was difficult after 4 hours to come up with anything. And later on we even heard that there were attempts at denying that indeed the interviews took place. So I don't expect much. He doesn't know, he doesn't remember, he doesn't recall, he was not there when it matters most, but selectively he would recall what happened 30, 40 years ago and forgetting about what happened 5, 10 years ago.
Do you think that's where it's all going to end up, Prof? In other words, those who sympathize with the former president will remain so, however many days and weeks or probably months that this is going to continue, and those who think that he is not the one to speak the truth. That will be the case when his testimony comes to an end.
I don't think there is much that people are going that the commission is going to gain out of this. He's supposedly a key witness or a star witness, but I don't think you can. I personally don't expect much. But you see, the victimhood card he has played successfully at one stage and he won, but it couldn't and even carried him into the State House. But when it matters most, it didn't help him when he had to be recalled. So based on that, again we see an attempt at this. What does he say to us, those who remember Shakespeare and Othello? Othello said, I am more sinned against than sin, right? I'm more sinned against than sinning, which basically says, I might have done something wrongs, but people have done more wrong to me than I did to them, which is really how he's coming across. But what is the impact or would the effect of all that is saying be on the ANC? That's what worries me most. Because the division and the fissures will grow, and an unstable ANC is not good for the country. And one even shudder to imagine what this would culminate into if indeed those who are alleged to have been spies and those and associates are coming across to try to take action, and the sense is that he's being persecuted rather than prosecuted. The ANC will come out a greater loser in the entire process. But consequently, or in attendance thereof, the country too can be destabilized.
Well, the ANC, and in particular President Cyril Ramaphosa, have made a commitment to appear before the commission. What do you think he would do if he was to appear the day after Jacob Zuma finishes his testimony?
It's a very tricky one, and I'm sure the president and his advisor would say, don't go for him. Because, you know, in Zuma there is a potential to break or to build the ANC. And for now, Ramaphosa is more concerned about this ethereal quasi-unity that is working on. He would rather try to protect and to preserve and to give an impression that is, and I think rightly so, because anything that can rock the boat, and there is somebody, I think at one level, Jacob Zuma is trying to dare the president and to dare the ANC. And the consequences of that daring might be too ghastly to contemplate. So the best would be to nurse and to nurture the process with the hope that they can ultimately find each other. But I don't expect that President Ramaphosa would try in a very radical way to deny, to question, or to challenge what Zuma is saying. He would be reconciliatory, he would be magnanimous with the hope that the same can be done by Jacob Zuma, some sort of a tit for tat. Let's compromise, let's find a golden mean in the interest of the party and in the interest of the country.
But does Jacob Zuma have it in him to do what you just said he could do, or perhaps should do?
Well, Jacob, for now, he's a bitter and an angry man. And I've detected that a few months ago. And he doesn't, I think in my view, he would want to inflict as much pain on the ANC or on the soul of the ANC. And if that means bringing it down, I think he would care less. He feels more sinned against than having sinned. And he would want to come even with other people. And the more this public spurt continues, the more resolute he seems to be determined. And at one point, you see him being animated as he speaks. At one point, it's almost saying, bring it on, I am ready. At one point, you would argue that the man says, I've been pushed too far. It's time now to knuckle out, and I'm known to be a very good stick fighter. Let's go for it.
Prof, that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you very much for your time. Political analyst Lesiba Tefu joining us from our Pretoria studios.